So hello students, let's start our discussion for the current affairs as our weekly session which we are conducting anyway every week. Okay, some of the news which we could not cover in our daily current affairs, all that will be covered here on this weekly basis. So let's start with this first news. That is about this heart disease, diabetes spiked mortality risk among Indians between 2010 and 2019. This is the Lancet study. Now, if you look at all these diseases, we use one specific term for these diseases, that is non-communicable disease. Now, when you say non-communicable, it's a disease which is chronic and non-transmissible. What do we mean by this? See, there are some diseases which transfer from one person to the other person, like COVID-19, that used to transmit from one person to the other because it was being caused by a virus. So sometimes the disease is caused by virus or bacteria, protozoa, etc. It will be transmissible easily. But there are some diseases, those do not spread like this. Rather, there is some reason in you. Maybe your lifestyle is of a kind because of which you develop that disease. Okay, and it is chronic. See, it will take a lot of time for the disease, that disease to get into you, like a bacteria or let's say a virus got into your body. Suddenly within a day or two you got that disease. It doesn't happen in this particular case of non-communicable diseases. So the best example if I have to take is of diabetes. You're not going to get affected by any bacteria and because of which you will get diabetes. It is because of your lifestyle, the kind of food you are eating, the way you're eating, that will have impact on your body. And slowly, gradually, it will turn out into diabetes. Okay, so just like diabetes, there are some other non-communicable diseases like cardiovascular diseases, like you get heart attack, stroke, etc. or cancer or chronic respiratory diseases, like for example this asthma is quite famous. All these are non-communicable diseases. And if we see the report, it says that this non-communicable disease is something that is becoming very common throughout the world nowadays. 185 countries have tracked NCD related deaths because of non-communicable disease. So 185, this clearly shows around the world these kinds of diseases have become common, and these have become the reason behind death of many people. Now, if you see the numbers or data with respect to India, now there's one thing that is very specific about India that we are finding over here. If we compare India's data with that of those developed countries or Western countries, etc., you'll find one major difference. There what happens is people who are above the age of 80, they die because of these non-communicable diseases. So they are going through diabetes, cancer, or these heart attack, etc. In case of India, people with age less than 80, they are dying because of this disease. So it's a very concerning thing that we can say in case of India. And the special reasons, whether if we specifically talk about India, heart disease and diabetes, these are two major reasons. See, non-communicable disease will include so many diseases. Out of that, I'm saying these two diseases have become very common with respect to India, and these are the major cause of death of Indians. Okay, so important news from the perspective of health diseases part, GS paper 2. Okay, now what are the causes behind these non-communicable diseases? I said your lifestyle could be one of the major reasons. So lifestyle, in which it comes to your diet, whatever you're eating. Let's say your diet is very bad, especially people living in urban areas. Nowadays, most of the people, what they eat is the processed food or the packaged food. So most of you might be eating the chips, vapors, all those things continuously every single day. Not good for health, good for your health. Or we're continuously taking stuff which is made up of carbohydrate or full of carbohydrate. What happens is our body needs all the nutrients. I need carbohydrates, I need proteins, I need vitamins, I need minerals, etc. So many things. But if I keep on giving my body just carbohydrates, that will not be good. That would be a poor diet. Then inactivity, many people, because they're getting jobs which does not require much physical activity as such, they're sitting at one place continuously working. For example, the IT employees, there is inactivity, they're hardly moving from their place, no physical activity as such. Some people have these habits, or what we call as the bad habits, of consuming tobacco or alcohol, and that also leads to some kind of non-communicable diseases. These are lifestyle or preventable risks. This is something you can prevent. You can have a good diet, you can go for some physical activity, and you can stop using such products which cause harm to your body. Then there are some societal or environmental reasons. For example, right now what we are observing in India is rising urbanization. So when urbanization is happening, people moving to urban areas, they're living in urban areas, it's very obvious that your diet would not be the kind of diet which was there in villages. In village you were having all the access to all the kinds of food items. Here people little neglect, they don't have enough time to take care of their diet and all those things. So urbanization is one reason, globalization is one reason, aging is one of the reasons, and poverty. People are poor. Even if I want to have a good diet, if I don't have enough amount of money, how would I spend my money on that, right? So many reasons. Then other reason could be pollution. Pollution also leads to, like, pollution would be outdoor pollution, indoor pollution, any of that. And some stress, especially the chronic stress. When you say chronic means for a long duration you are having that thing. So if there is a stress, and in urban areas the kind of jobs people are doing, 9 to 6 you call it, or people working for 10-12 hours continuous under stress because of the exploitative practices in many companies, and then they go to home, financial problems at home, some private issues at home. So person lives in continuous stress for a very long duration, and this stress leads to lot many problems, especially coming up with some kind of non-communicable disease. So all these are the reasons is what we can say. Now what could be the solution, how we can tackle this non-communicable disease? So you have to go for multiple approaches. First of all, you will focus on primary healthcare stuff. You have to focus on primary healthcare so that people are in a position to detect their diseases earlier, they manage those diseases earlier, provide them with some digital tools wherein they can use it so that they'll come to know. Many people don't even know that they're diabetic or pre-diabetic. So some tools can be provided, and multi-sectoral collaboration is needed. You need to understand, see, health part is involved, urbanization is involved, poverty is involved. When reasons are multi-sectoral, the solution has to be multi-sectoral. So many different ministries have to come together, collaborate to come up with some solution in this particular case. Okay? So we say that we need some kind of reforms, especially in case of India. Some policy reforms, some changes in fiscal measures, like you might need to make some, provide some more funding, more budgetary allocation to deal with the non-communicable diseases, and investment should be on sustainable part. Okay, you have to change the lifestyle of people. You need to understand this part. You have to change the lifestyle of people. That's not going to be very easy. Okay. Now there are some initiatives already taken in India. For example, this Eat Right India movement. Now this was about a good diet. Then Fit India movement. This was about the fitness or the physical activity. Then this NPNCD, National Program for NCD Prevention and Control. And we have this Ayushman Bharat, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So all these are initiatives taken by government in order to deal with these non-communicable diseases, either directly or indirectly. Okay, just understand what all is actually happening. The problem, the solution part, and the initiatives that are already being taken up by government. Make sense? So, not a good news, obviously. It's a bad news on which we have to deal. Now, moving ahead. Next news is 2025 Punjab floods are a sum of total of extreme rain, weak embankments, floodplain encroachment, and obstruction of natural drainage. Now, if you are watching news, I'm pretty sure you must have seen flooding in India in last few weeks or few months, especially Punjab, if you have seen the news correctly. What the news is telling us is, in India, suddenly we are observing this flood becoming a major problem, especially if you talk about this flooding happening in urban areas of India. Because you see, urban areas, they are very important financially. They're very important because so many people are living right now. Majority of the population of India is living in urban areas. Although we don't have any official data, the census is yet to be conducted, but many other studies or surveys have said that most probably around 50% or more than 50% of India's population is already living in urban area. Now the point is, when such flooding happens suddenly, and if your local area governance is not so good, suddenly every activity will stop. So we have to deal with this problem specifically. So this article specifically is about Punjab, but this flooding problem is not just about Punjab. It's about entire India, which you need to understand, especially for India's urban population. This is a major issue that we can understand. Now you need to understand one thing. What are the causes of this flood and all? Maybe we have to think about it. It could be the natural reason, it could be the artificial reason. Natural could be the changes in the atmosphere which normally occur automatically. It's a monsoon period, so that's obvious also. But artificial could be, the major reason could be our climate change and global warming. Because of climate change, so many things, so many changes are happening in terms of climate, atmospheric circulations, etc. So we don't know. We don't know what's exact reason behind this specific flood. It could be climate change. Now because anyway we know that climate change is a reality right now, and things can become way more worse, way more frequent. We can see such flooding happening more in next years. Like this year, if it is happening 3 times, next year it might be happening 10 times, next to next year it might be 30 times. This could happen. So we have to be ready for all of that. Now if I have to look at the key challenges at this particular time which these urban areas of India are facing, the challenges cities in India are facing. Number one challenge would be this flooding, wherein we say that by 2070, 2/3 of urban residents will be at risk just because of flooding. And please understand, when they are hit by flooding, if you see the economic damage that will be made in this particular case, it will be somewhere around $30 billion US. This much amount will be lost just because of this urban flooding. We're saying 2/3 of the population of urban area will be affected. Right now also flooding is happening. Let's say in Hyderabad, in Delhi, such things are happening, but not in entire city. Maybe some pockets, some areas where we see the rainfall and the flooding happens. When 2/3 population getting affected, you need to understand substantial area of the cities will be affected by rains. That's what we understand from this basic analysis or estimation that scholars are coming with. So this is dangerous. Now what could be solution for this problem of flooding? First, you can strengthen the drainage infrastructure that is there in cities. One of the major problem here would be this urban administration or urban government, because the local government in India is not so powerful. We've seen that they are getting power from the state government, and state government has hardly provided them with any special powers as such. So the performance is not really good when it comes to the local governments. Now the point over here is, if these drainage infrastructure and everything has to be done better, you have to ensure that the local governance becomes little better. Then some nature-based solutions, maybe for focusing on wetlands, the permeable surfaces. Like if you see the roads are made using the concrete, or let's say made using the asphalt, etc. Now the point over here is, there are no permeable spaces wherein the water can get inside the surface of the earth. There's no space available, there is no hole or anything available on the streets, because of which the water logging takes place, because of which this flooding occurs, especially in urban areas. So when they were constructing roads, it was their responsibility to make some spaces, some permeable surfaces they should have kept. But the problem is they did not do this task. Now at least government should come up with some action to do this thing. Okay? Then we can go for this flood forecasting and warning. Already there is this Kolkata model. In Kolkata they are doing this thing wherein early warning system has been established so that people be ready in case if we just come to know that there is a possibility of flooding just few minutes earlier or few hours earlier, then we will be prepared for that. At least we can take some actions. So these are some solutions is what we can say. Then extreme heat is a second problem. Flooding we said, now we are seeing extreme heat is a problem. See, heat, anyway global warming is happening, so heat is a problem throughout the world. But when I talk specifically about urban areas, here we have this urban heat problem. We use one term also, urban heat island. The problem is, if you see urban areas, what we have in urban areas is this road, is there we have so many buildings constructed using concrete. And if you see concrete or this asphalt, all those things, or the road which is made up of any specific material, all these materials, they actually capture this heat. They capture the heat, they keep the heat over there. That's why as compared to villages, you will find urban areas having more heat with them. Then there is hardly any space available for the wind to move and all. See, when wind is moving, you'll see the temperature changes in the temperature to some extent. That's not happening in urban areas. You hardly have spaces available. So the point is, urban areas have this problem of extreme heat. We say that 3 to 5 degrees temperature is increasing in case of these urban areas in India. And this will lead to lot many problems in terms of health, in terms of productivity. See, temperature 3 degrees increasing. If a person is working outside, he will not be able to work normally in the summers or in any season. Let's say normally in the afternoon people are working, someone on Ola or Uber, they're driving the vehicle. If the heat is so high, they will not be able to do their work. So the productivity reduces. There will be impact on the health of many people. This is something we need to understand. Now, what could be solution for these problems? Well, you should have some heat action plan. That yes, temperature is increasing, so what can be the action that can be taken? You have to make a plan. This is at the policy level, such plans have to come. So we have a very famous plan, or one action plan coming from Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad has a good plan and they're doing this in a substantially good way. So entire India can learn from this Ahmedabad's heat action plan. Now it can include so many actions. Okay, for example, maybe you can try to focus on more the greenery part, or some reservoirs you can create which can have some cooling effect on the nearby area. So just imagine if there's a lake in your nearby area, because of that lake, the nearby area will have some cooling effect. Okay, similarly, some greenery, you can go for this rooftop gardens. Many people, like, they have their houses, at the top of their house they create some kind of greenery, right? All such things help you reduce this temperature pattern that is there, or the heat that is increasing. You can reduce it to some extent. Okay, so two problems we discussed till now. One is this one, flooding. Second is this extreme heat. Now third is transportation that we need to deal. Now when I say transportation, you see, flooding of 10 to 20% of the area of roads cripples 50% of the network. Now see, it's related to the flooding only, but because the kind of transportation systems we have available in urban areas, substantial part of that area will get affected. So you should know that in our city, let's say I'm in Hyderabad, if I know that there are few areas in Hyderabad, few roads or few networks where the possibility of flood is very high, I should first go for this risk mapping. I should know that these are the areas which are mostly affected. Now I should take actions, especially for at least for these areas, if not entire city. So this risk mapping we have to do, then build some resilient road design, green public transport in all these areas. Then municipal services, the municipality or this urban local government part. This one problem that is with respect to this outdated waste management and energy recovery system. Waste is a major problem in urban areas. You see many cities, there will be some areas where lot of some drainage or some waste material that has been dumped at a particular location, and that gets dumped so much that you can create a complete mountain out of it. That's a major problem. What you need to do is, you're using very outdated technologies for the waste management. You can use the new upgraded technologies or modernize these waste systems. You can expand this waste to energy project. Using the waste material, if you can create any energy, let's say a biofuel, a kind of diesel, petrol kind of a stuff, that's like you're using the waste material to create something very much important for you. So such things can be done. Focus on environmental quality. The best example is Indore. You see, whenever there will be ranking about the clean cities in India, Indore will always be at the top. Indore and then Surat. Nowadays Surat is also performing really good. Indore is at top because they have focused on so many stuffs. So this can be a good model for entire India. Now fifth is governance and finance. See, the problem, if you have to understand in terms of the structure, in terms of institutions, you will find out that our institutions are weak. Now here specifically I'm talking about these municipalities. These municipalities are weak. They don't have any special power as such. We have gone for decentralization just for the sake of name, that we have federal structure. Now we created third tier Panchayati Raj and municipalities, but in reality, just like state governments have their own powers which they are getting from the constitution, when it comes to these Panchayati Raj and municipalities, they are more or less living on the mercy of state governments. If state governments give them funding, then they will work. If state governments give them some extra power, they will work. Otherwise, it's the state governments who are holding all the power. So that's a major problem. These institutions are a little weak, and there is very less private financing involved. If only government is doing all the work and private is not involved in this, you'll not be able to do stuffs in a better manner. So this is a problem you all or we all need to deal with. So we have to build strong urban institutions. You have to bring citizens' participation in this and bring this role of private sector, bring their investment. They have got money which they can fund, they can use to fund the projects which we can run at the local levels. Okay? Getting the point? It's a very good article, very important specifically for your mains examination, I would say. In prelims, there's hardly anything that they can ask. There's possibility they can ask about this urban heat island, etc. But for mains, it's quite important. Okay? Now, look at this next article. Working to blend isobutanol with diesel after ethanol blending failed. See, actually Indian government is already working on blending of ethanol with petrol and also with diesel. As far as petrol is concerned, we have done this successfully. You have this project called E20, wherein 20% of the ethanol or 10%, whatever it is, they're at least doing, blending petrol with this biofuel. Okay. Now, as far as petrol was concerned, it was done successfully. But with respect to diesel, the experiments have failed. They tried, but the experiments have been some kind of a failure for the government. Now, instead of using ethanol, now they're saying now we'll use isobutanol. So somehow, if not this biofuel, we'll use another biofuel. Somehow we are trying to make use of some alternatives to go for such blending. Now, isobutanol, when you say, you should just know the basic part. Its formula is C4H10O, 4-carbon alcohol, we call it in simple terms. Okay, it's a flammable and colorless liquid. It is a liquid, colorless and flammable. Traditionally a solvent in paints, coating, chemical industries. So mostly we've been using it in painting. So many paints are there, if you have seen, in that they use this isobutanol. Okay, in many industries also, chemical industries specifically, they use it. It's commonly used over there. Now, how do we make isobutanol? If you remember last time when I was discussing ethanol, how do we make ethanol? I said that there are two methods. One method is this petrochemical method, and other one is this biomass fermentation or fermentation process, or some process which is different from this petrochemical. Petrochemical means, you see, you bring crude oil, natural gas, you go for distillation, you go for refining these stuffs. While refining, you come up with so many products like petrol, diesel, your polymers, etc. Now similar method, when you're doing one of the product could also be this isobutanol. This is your petrochemical method. Other one is biomass fermentation. You can go for the process of fermentation through which, just like, you know, when you go for fermentation, what happens is you create some kind of alcohol. This is one kind of alcohol called isobutanol. Now if we compare isobutanol with that of ethanol, what specific things you can find, or what specific properties in terms of the difference we can find out? So first of all, isobutanol has higher energy density as compared to diesel, one thing. Second, lower hygroscopicity. What does this mean? It means it will absorb less water as compared to ethanol. Ethanol absorbs more water, and this one is absorbing less water, which is good thing. Now we're still working. See, the tests were conducted for ethanol, failed. Now we are conducting tests for isobutanol. We don't know whether it will be successful or not. If it will be successful, we'll blend it. If not, we'll not go for it. We'll look for some other alternative. So ongoing tests, these are going on. Now this includes different kinds of tests. One is, can we blend it or mix it with diesel? This is one kind of a test. Second test, can we use it as a stand-alone fuel? Means separately, just like petrol which we use independently, we're not mixing it with anything. Similarly, can we use isobutanol as a complete separate independent fuel as such? That's the second test we are conducting. Third, we are trying to mix it with compressed natural gas, that is your CNG, which can be used in your tractors or for any kind of agricultural machinery. If it is possible, we are checking that part. Okay, so all these trials are going on. If we do this, this will be very helpful, especially for India's energy security. We are hell lot dependent on other countries for our energy security, petrol, diesel, etc. So we are trying to reduce that. Our import bill is also very much because of this thing. So all that we can do, and a cleaner option as compared to fossil fuels, because petrol, diesel, all these lead to lot of carbon emission, greenhouse gas emission. If we have a fuel which has less emissions or no emissions, we will always prefer that. We want such clean fuels. Okay, and in Indian government has already launched this policy called National Biofuel Policy in 2018, and you see it includes transition to green energy and higher farmer incomes. That's part of this policy, and somehow using this, what is the name, isobutanol, we are somehow supporting our national biofuel policy. I hope you understand this part. Quite easy, we can say. Okay. Now the next, unveiling hidden diversity in Aspergillus section nigri by Indian scientists. Now what is this news all about? In India we have an area called as Western Ghat. Yes, it's a very biodiversity rich area, so much biodiversity, so many different species you will find out over here. Now right now we have discovered two new species of this black Aspergillus category. We found out two new species in Western Ghat region. Now if you see this Western Ghat region, this organ of United Nations, the special agency of United Nations called UNESCO, it has included Western Ghat into this list of World Heritage Site. So UNESCO World Heritage Site, they have got some list around the world, out of which Western Ghat is one of that World Heritage Site, quite important site. And also it is one of the 8 hottest biodiversity hotspots in entire world. So you see, there are some biodiversity hotspots. When you say biodiversity hotspot, that means it's a region which is full of endemic species, some species which are just available in that area. I call it, or we call it, endemic species. I'm saying these are those species which are just available only in a particular area in the world. You'll not find that species in any other part of the world. So that's an endemic species. And when you have an area where so many such endemic species are present, that becomes a biodiversity hotspot. And when you call it hottest, that means it's the one where you have so much biodiversity, so many endemic species, and also they are threatened right now because of, again, the deforestation, climate change, so many things, the man-made activities. As a result of that, these are the biodiversity hotspots which are at risk, wherein many animals might die, many species which are just available there. If those species, let's say Western Ghat is destroyed, you will never find some of the species on the earth ever, because those species are only there. Okay, so I said there are 8 hottest biodiversity hotspots in which you will find the name of Western Ghat. Western Ghat, because Sri Lanka will have the continuity of the same Western Ghat. Our Western Ghat starts from the areas of Gujarat, then to Maharashtra, then Karnataka, then Kerala, Tamil Nadu. So there is a continuity, and the same continuity you will find even in Sri Lanka. So this entire region we call as one of the hottest biodiversity hotspot. Now here is a list of remaining biodiversity hotspots. I'll give you 2 minutes, just read all of that. Just give it a reading. You should know these areas. Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes. Done? Now, next article is, should reservations exceed the 50% cap? Now this is a major issue. Reservation is already a very controversial issue in India. We discuss that whenever we discuss, there is more heat than light is what we say. That instead of light means, you have a discussion on something, debate on something, and then you come up with a light or some conclusion or something enlightening you. But we don't get a light from a debate on reservation. We get heat, we get arguments, fights. People start fighting when it comes to reservation. So it's a controversial issue. Now, right now we're discussing whether it is okay to exceed this 50% cap or not. What should be done and all those things. So right now what is happening is, many leaders, especially in Bihar, because now we have election in Bihar, so political leaders will keep on making some promises. So there's a Bihar opposition leader, he said that 85% reservation should be there, not just 50%, 85%, and he will be giving that reservation if he gets elected. That's what he's saying. Now, on the other hand, there are some other issues which are also going on. For example, Supreme Court is checking whether we can have creamy layer for SC/ST. Right now this creamy layer concept applies only for OBCs. It doesn't apply for SC or ST community. So whether we can do that, this is also being questioned, or Supreme Court is looking into that part. So all these debates are going on right now in India. Now you see, we all know why reservation came into India, or why we brought this provision of reservation. Because historically, some communities, some sections of the society, they were oppressed, a lot of injustice was done against them. So because of which, to correct all those things, to bring equality in true sense, or to bring social justice, we said we're bringing reservation in India. Reservation in India is also called as something called as positive discrimination. We're doing discrimination, but it is a positive discrimination which will bring social justice and equality in true spirit, or what we call as substantive equality. See, there is one thing called there's one thing called procedural equality and one thing called substantive equality. Now this is a very formal kind of equality wherein you're saying we are going to act equally with everyone. We are going to ensure that equality is there in terms of process. We will deal with everyone in the equal sense. But what about the inequality that is existing since years, since thousands of the years? How can you just start saying that now we are behaving everyone equally? Some people are already at some advantage, some are at a very lower level. That won't be doing justice. Procedural equality over here might not do the complete justice in this particular case because of the history that we have. So we talk about something called substantive justice. As an outcome, there should be justice as an outcome, there should be equality as an outcome, which will come through substantive part. Reservation is somehow trying to bring the same substantive equality. Now in India we have this kind of reservation, if you have ever observed. So SC community gets 15% reservation, ST 7.5%, OBC gets 27%, and recently we added EWS reservation. After EWS being added, now the total reservation is somewhere around 59.5%, so approximately 60% of the reservation that we have right now. Okay. Now this is just a history part. If you want to read, like if you want to go through this, I'll give you 1 minute to just go through it once. It's just a basic thing, how reservation, firstly we started in 1950, 1951 in the constitution. In article 15, 16 we added some exceptional clauses saying that we can make some special provisions for SC, ST community, for women or children or weaker sections, etc. All these terms were added. Then we started giving reservation and all. Initially reservation was given to SC/ST community, later on we gave it even to the OBC community, and now we have given to EWS. So this is just a trend or this timeline which you can see. I'll give you 1 minute just to go through this particular part. Just 1 minute, just give it a good reading. Done? Now see, we have so many articles dealing with this reservation part, or from which articles we are getting this provision for positive discrimination. You can see this entire list. Article 15 we have so many clauses, Article 16 we have clauses, Article 330, 332 specifically talks about political representation, wherein SC/ST community gets reservation in parliament and in state assembly. Similarly 243 T, 243D, that's about municipalities and panchayats, and in case of appointments 335. So you can read about all these things. Now there are some cases which you need to focus on. Number one case is this Balaji versus State of Mysore 1962 case. In this particular case, the Supreme Court said that reservations under Article 15 should not exceed 50% of the mark. So this is something we get from this Balaji versus State of Mysore case. Then we have State of Kerala versus N.M. Thomas 1975 case. Here Supreme Court recognized substantive equality. What they said is, if you think that reservation is an exception to Article 15 and 16, you are wrong. Article 15 and 16, what does it say? That state will not discriminate you on the basis of religion, sex, caste, place of birth, etc., etc. Right? So state should not discriminate. And in the same article, there is a clause that state can make special provisions for some people like SC, ST community, etc. So many people think that this reservation is nothing but an exception to equality, because the article of the Constitution says there will be equality, and now you are giving exception to equality. Supreme Court says it is not an exception to equality. It is part of substantive equality. So don't think that it is bringing inequality. No. The moment you give exception to equality, it becomes inequality. But Supreme Court is saying it is not inequality. It is bringing substantive equality, not procedural one. Okay? It's very important, very good statement by Supreme Court in this case. Then we have State of Punjab versus Davinder Singh case 2024. Quite important. Davinder Singh case, quite famous. You should know this case. Supreme Court says policies be framed for applying the creamy layer principle within SC/ST reservation. Okay, I said that. When it comes to OBC, we have this concept of creamy layer. Those people belonging to the creamy layer privileged class, they don't get the benefit of reservation as such. But when it comes to SC/ST community, we don't have this concept of creamy layer. So what we are simply saying is, here Supreme Court is saying that government should frame the policies by applying the same creamy layer principle even for SC/ST community. Although government has not yet gone for the same thing. Like government at that time said that we are not applying any creamy layer concept on SC/ST community. We'll see if this happens in future. Okay, this is an ongoing issue. We have to see what exactly happens, what's government stance, what Supreme Court stance is, what happens at the end. We will see that. Now, just for your study, for your reference, there are other cases relevant or important regarding this reservation as an issue. You can read them in detail, and anything important you can just note it down for your mains, because reservations remains an important topic for your mains as well as interview. Okay, so I'll give you 1 minute if you want to just skim through it. Done? This part we have already discussed, substantive and all. Now, whether we should have this 50% cap or not, there are debates. Some people are against it, some people support it. Those supporting, they say that backward classes, they form more than 60% of the population, and you have capped the reservation till 50%. That's not right. They're anyway more than 60% of the population. Then Rohini Commission was formed. Justice Rohini was heading it. They said that we need to go for sub-categorization, because specifically what she said, I'll tell you, 97% of the OBCs population, or 97% of the reservation benefit these OBC population is getting, in that we will find only 25% of the castes. That means, let's say this is the entire OBC population, okay, and this is the reservation. I'm saying 97% of the reservation the OBCs are getting. This is only being taken, means the benefit is taken only by this 25% of the caste which belong to OBC. Remaining 75%, they are not getting the benefit of reservation. Okay, so that's why she suggested we should go for sub-categorization. Then Supreme Court in this particular case, N.M. Thomas, we said that it should continue the equality. We studied this part. Many states have gone for exceeding this 50% cap. Tamil Nadu, Haryana, Maharashtra, they have already crossed this 50% mark. So there's a precedent in terms of states that we observe. supporting this part. People who are against it, they say something else. For example, we have one case called Indra Sani case, quite famous, 1992. So that Balaji case was there, Indra Sani case, both of them said 50% cap is very important, because see, you are bringing reservation for social justice, but you can't just say that we don't need merit as such. No, you need merit also, you need social justice also, both things are needed. You have to balance both of them. So it's better if we go for 50% of the mark, that would be much better. Then many reserved seats. Now this is one interesting problem, I'll tell you. Reservation is there, but nobody is looking at this problem. That all those reserved seats, these seats are not filled. Let's say there's a job in a particular university and 20 seats are vacant for SC community. All those seats are not filled. Even if there is reservation, seats are not filled. That is a major problem. That means implementation in real terms is not happening, even if there is reservation. Then there is a risk of undermining administrative efficiency. This is because of the merit. If you do not have merit, there won't be efficiency. That's an argument. And this creamy layer issue is there. Without excluding these creamy layers, it makes no sense. So rather than you crossing the 50% mark, do one thing, keep it 50%. But do one thing, go for creamy layer concept and give importance to those lower end people. Okay? So as a way forward, you have all these things. You can go for caste census first, because only then you will get the data regarding the caste. Go for subcategorization, go for creamy layer. Then two-tier reservation can be given. You give the reservation to the entire community. In that, let's say SC community, you give the reservation. Now in SC, there will be maybe 50, 100, 60, 70 different castes. In that, give reservation. Within the reservation, give additional reservation to those castes which are not getting any benefit of it. So this could be two-tier one. Then fill all the backlogs, vacancies that are there. And because many people are looking at reservation like a job scheme, because they're not getting job. For example, you see Marathas, Jats, they are giving a call for reservation because they're not getting jobs in the market. The unemployment is very high. People don't have enough skills to get the job. That's a major problem which government has to address separately. Okay? Not many people will come and ask for reservation if you deal with this unemployment problem better. Okay? So all this is important. Then center panel gives note to assess impact of rock phosphate mine on bustard habitat. Now see, we have this bird in India called as Great Indian Bustard. Now what has happened recently is there is a project, mining project for this Barmenia rock phosphate mine. This was recently approved by this Expert Appraisal Committee, EAC, which is under Union government. Now they said that we have checked this EIA part of this project and we find it okay, environmental impact assessment. Now what happens is, whenever you go for any developmental project or you're trying to go for any project, private sector or anyone is going for it, so they first go for environmental impact assessment. What kind of impact this project will have on environment, wildlife, air, water, etc. Okay. Now if the impact is too much, now what are you doing for mitigation? So you will make a complete plan that for mitigation we'll do all these things. Now you will submit this report to this Expert Appraisal Committee. They will check. They'll check if whatever mitigation is needed, are you doing that? Means what is your plan? If they feel that you need to take few more steps, they'll tell that. Once it is all done, if they find out that now this project is okay to go ahead with, so they will approve it and they will give it to the ministry. At the end, it is the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. They are going to take the final call whether to approve this project or not. Okay. So right now this Expert Appraisal Committee has just approved this Barmenia rock phosphate mine project. Now the concern in this particular case is, because of this mining activity which is going to happen over here, the Great Indian Bustard species might become extinct, because already the number of this bird is very less, and if such mining activities we are continuing, then we don't know whether this species will ever survive in India or not. If you want to know the basic about Great Indian Bustard, it's one of the heaviest flying birds in entire world. and mostly you will find this species in India's Rajasthan's Thar desert, where you will find it. Some of these species will also be there in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and even Andhra Pradesh, but mostly it is the Rajasthan where you will find it. Sometimes it reaches out to Pakistan also. Now, it's one of the 4 Indian bustards. There are different species of bustards. So for example, there is lesser floricon, Bengal floricon, McQueen's bustard, and there is this great Indian bustard. Okay, now this species is very important. Why it is important? Because we call it keystone species. What is keystone species? You see, if we are making an arc, let's say through some stones, the stone that is there over here is called keystone. If you remove the stone, the entire arc will collapse. Similarly, there are some species, if they die, if they completely die, entire ecology will collapse. They're less in number, but they're very important for the entire ecosystem. For example, think about tigers. Tigers are also something called keystone species. If all the tigers die, entire ecosystem will collapse. Okay, so here in this case, this great Indian bustard is very important for the grassland. The grassland ecosystem, in that there is important role played by great Indian bustards. If all these great Indian bustards will die, your grassland will entirely collapse as an ecosystem. Okay. Now, what's the status of this great Indian bustard? How many are still alive? What's the clear status? You see, right now, see the protection status. In Wildlife Protection Act 1972, we have put this species in Schedule 1. Schedule 1 means there is strong protection. In IUCN list, we find it as critically endangered. Critically endangered means already at a very high stage, very tough. And in CITES, it is in Appendix 1. You see, the threats this species is facing. One is the habitat loss. Whenever you go for mining, industry activities, wind turbines, infrastructure, etc., this leads to some problem for this species. Then they have so many times this power line collisions. We have this electricity power lines. What happens is when this species, like this bird is flying, so mostly this bird has got the eyesight in which it looks on this side, wide view is there, but the frontal view is very narrow. They're not able to see things very clearly which are there in front of them while flying. So what happens is this power grid comes into picture and they collide with them and they die. So every year we see almost like 18 great Indian bustards die because of this. You might say, sir, only 18? We are concerned about them because they're already in very less number. Hardly 100, 150 this species are there. Let's say you see the data. Current population of 140 great Indian bustards are there right now. If 140 are there and if 18 are dying every year just because of one reason, we are not even taking into consideration others. So you have to think about it. Yes, then there is this pollution because of pesticide. Grassland is getting, polluted. Hunting and poaching, many people hunt it. Okay, that's a major problem. Once I saw one video from Pakistan, those people were going for hunting and they were like shooting at this particular bird and they were enjoying it. That's a problem. And there is slow reproduction also. These birds reproduce very slowly, and because of grazing, tourism, they're getting disturbed. All these are the reasons because of which we see this species is facing the threat. Now, India has already gone for many mechanisms, like for example, this major program is called National Bustard Recovery Plan that we started, extended till 2033. Here we have Wildlife Institute of India who is working for this particular program, and it's getting funding from this fund called CAMPA. CAMPA is a very important fund. There is some funding we do for afforestation, right? For that we made a fund called CAMPA. Now from the same fund we are using the money for the recovery of this particular bird species. Okay, it's very important news we can say. And just because we said that this is about this mining project, Barmania rock phosphate mine, you should know what is this phosphate mine or phosphate rock is all about. Phosphate rock means it's a rock having phosphorus. It's a rock rich in phosphorus. It's a sedimentary rock. Rock has 3 types we know: igneous rock, sedimentary rock, metamorphous rock. We are calling phosphate rock as a sedimentary rock. So in the sediment somewhere this organic part will be there, which must have been there, the organic deposit, because of which this phosphorus is something that we'll be finding over here. Okay, we go for different mining methods, not so important for you to think about. if you see the distribution, that's quite important. In Africa, you will find phosphate rock, North America, Kazakhstan, Middle East. Largest deposit you are going to find in Morocco. And as far as India is concerned, in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, you will find this phosphate rock. Okay? Now, where all are we going to use this particular thing? So it will be used in agriculture. This phosphate rock will have some importance in terms of fertilizers, in animal nutrition also, and in many industries, chemical industries and all, their phosphorus becomes important. So that's how we use it. One important fact that you can think about is this part, that India imports 90% of its phosphate rock from entire world. We are so much dependent. Okay, just the basic part you should know. Rest we have anyway covered. The main news was about this Great Indian Bustard. Okay, so that's all about this particular part, or that's all about the current affairs for this weekly session. Okay, so we'll meet next time. Thank you so much.